Elias slept soundly. He dreamt of a sun-drenched beach. Warm golden sand sifted between his toes. Gentle turquoise waves lapped softly at the shore. A profound sense of pure contentment washed over him. He felt completely safe in this idyllic place. This was his secret sanctuary, a haven built from light and peace. He wished he could remain there forever, suspended in this flawless moment. This perfect, tranquil scene felt more real than waking life. He clung to the feeling, wanting it to last an eternity. The dream continued its serene rhythm. Joyous laughter echoed around him, a sound he cherished. Perhaps a loved one was near, sharing this perfect peace. Or maybe a long-held ambition was finally gloriously achieved. Everything within this dreamscape was utterly perfect. But then a question arose. Was it perhaps too perfect? A tiny, almost imperceptible flicker disturbed the edge of his vision. He quickly dismissed it, pushing it away. The overwhelming joy was too strong, too encompassing. He held on to this precious bubble of happiness, unwilling to let it burst. Yet the first subtle tendrils of unease began to creep in. The soothing sound of the waves suddenly deepened. It transformed into a low, resonant hum that vibrated through the sand. The brilliant sunlight seemed to dim for a brief second, then returned, but it felt slightly harsher, less welcoming than before. He scanned the horizon, his eyes searching. The beach appeared the same, unchanged. Still, an undeniable shift had occurred. A faint, unsettling feeling of being watched pricked at his senses. He tried to shake it off, to recapture the earlier serenity. He fought the encroaching feeling of disquiet. He focused intently on the sensation of the warm sand. He inhaled the crisp, salty air deeply, but the dream's initial perfection was now irrevocably stained. A distant shadow seemed to stretch a little too long, unnaturally so. The sweet call of a seabird sounded slightly off-key, discordant. These were such small, insignificant details they could be easily dismissed as products of his imagination, yet they lingered persistently in his mind. The delicate fabric of the dream was starting to fray at its very edges. Peace dissolved slowly, almost imperceptibly. Elias woke with a start. He found himself in his familiar bedroom. Pale morning sunlight streamed gently through the window pane. A wave of profound relief washed over his senses. It was just a dream, he thought with a sigh. A slightly strange dream towards the end, certainly unsettling, but it was only a dream, nothing more. He sat up slowly in his bed, stretching his tired limbs. The room looked exactly as it always did. His clothes were neatly folded on the chair. His alarm clock displayed 7 a.m., a perfectly normal morning. He walked to the bathroom. He splashed cool water on his face, trying to clear his head. He looked into the mirror above the sink. His reflection stared back at him, but for a split second it seemed to lag slightly, just a fraction of a second, a tiny delay. He blinked hard. It was normal again. He must be tired, he reasoned, still shaking off sleep. The taps made a strange gurgling sound before the water flowed. He heard a faint, almost inaudible whisper, like the rustle of wind, but no window was open. Downstairs, in the quiet kitchen, the coffee machine sputtered erratically. The overhead lights flickered once, then twice before steadying. He poured himself a cup of strong coffee. The newspaper lay on the table, but it showed yesterday's date. He frowned, a knot of confusion tightening in his stomach. He was absolutely sure of the current date. He checked his phone. The date displayed was correct. The newspaper had to be wrong. The milk from the fridge tasted faintly metallic, unpleasant. Small, unsettling details were beginning to accumulate, like gathering storm clouds. He grabbed his briefcase and headed out for work. The street outside seemed normal at first glance, but the usual cacophony of morning sounds, the chirping of birds, the distant hum of traffic, was strangely muted. It was as if a thick, invisible blanket had been thrown over the entire world, muffling everything. He saw his neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, tending her roses. Her wave seemed almost robotic, her smile fixed and unnatural. A passing car's color appeared to shift for a moment from bright red to a darker, almost black hue, then abruptly back to red. He shook his head, trying to clear the growing fog. He woke again, drenched in cold sweat. The same bedroom, the same weak sunlight, but the feeling of relief was entirely absent this time. A chilling, pervasive dread seeped into his bones. This felt far too familiar, a scene replayed. He forced himself out of bed. The wooden floorboards creaked louder than usual under his weight. Each step echoed unnaturally in the stillness. He glanced at the alarm clock. 7 a.m. Exactly. Again, he remembered the previous morning with horrifying clarity. The sense of déjà vu was overwhelming, suffocating. This was not right. In the bathroom, his reflection stared back with an unsettling, piercing intensity. Its eyes seemed darker, holding a strange glint. The whispers were louder now, more distinct. They were almost forming words he couldn't quite understand, just beyond his grasp. The lights flickered erratically, continuously, casting long, dancing shadows that writhed on the walls like living things. The gurgling from the taps sounded like a choked gasp for air. A dull pressure began to build inside his head, accompanied by a disorienting, low hum that vibrated through his very bones. His fragile reality was shaking violently. The kitchen was significantly worse this time. The newspaper on the table still stubbornly displayed yesterday's date, but now the headlines seemed to subtly mock him directly. Words like loops, repetitions, and trapped seemed to leap out from the page. The coffee machine emitted a high-pitched, grating whine before sputtering reluctantly to life. The milk in his coffee was definitely off, tasting strongly of ash and bitterness. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed deeper, darker, and he swore they shifted when he wasn't looking directly at them. The world was tilting precariously. Outside, the street was eerily, unnaturally silent. There were no birds singing, no distant traffic sounds, nothing. Mrs. Henderson was there again, frozen in the exact same wave, her smile a grotesque painted mask. The vibrant colours of the houses and gardens seemed duller, washed out, as if the very vibrancy had been systematically drained from the world. He tried to run to escape this repeating horror, but his legs felt incredibly heavy, like he was moving through thick, viscous water. Sheer panic began to surge through him. He needed to understand. He needed to wake up, for real this time. He woke. Or did he truly wake? The bedroom was significantly darker now, shrouded in gloom. The sunlight struggling to penetrate the window was weak, filtered through a strange, oppressive haze. The alarm clock lay smashed to pieces on the floor beside his bed. He didn't remember doing that, did he? He felt a distinct presence in the room with him. Not just a vague feeling this time, something tangible. A chilling cold spot lingered near the window. The air was thick, heavy, making it difficult to draw a full breath. He knew with a sinking certainty this wasn't just another loop. This felt final. A figure stood silently in the deepest shadows of the room. It was tall, its form indistinct at first, a mere silhouette against the dim light. As it slowly stepped forward, emerging from the darkness, Elias gasped audibly. It was him, but not him. This version of himself was horribly twisted, its familiar features distorted into a cruel parody. A chilling, knowing smirk played on its lips. Its eyes glowed faintly with an unnatural, malevolent light. Still dreaming? The figure whispered, its voice a distorted, grating echo of his own, filled with malice and a terrible amusement. It knew. "Who are you?" Elias managed to stammer, his voice trembling uncontrollably with fear. The figure let out a laugh, a dry, rasping sound that seemed to scrape against his eardrums. "I am the part of you that enjoys the show," it hissed, its voice dripping with contempt. "The part that doesn't truly want to wake up. Or perhaps," it paused, "the part that simply can't." It gestured vaguely around the decaying, nightmarish room. "This is your reality now, Elias, or is it?" The figure advanced slowly, and Elias felt an overwhelming, crushing sense of terror and stark inevitability. He lunged at the menacing figure, or at least he thought he did. There was a blinding flash of white light, a sharp, piercing scream. Was it his own? Then Elias jolted awake. He was in his bed. Bright sunlight streamed cheerfully through the window. The room looked perfectly normal, blessedly ordinary. The alarm clock on his nightstand read 7 a.m. He touched his face, his heart pounding violently in his chest. Was it all just a nightmare? A particularly vivid, terrifying nightmare? He looked around frantically. Everything seemed perfectly, reassuringly ordinary, but then his eyes caught it. A small, almost invisible scratch on the bathroom mirror.